This video I'm going to be comparing the Muppets franchise to the Evil Dead franchise, because in part 1 of this series I compared Muppets to Hellraiser, I compared Evil Dead to Paranormal Activity. Muppets and Evil Dead are the two franchises at once, so now I'm going to put them head to head. When you look at highest score for each franchise of Muppets, the movie called The Muppets from 2011 has a 95%. When you look at Evil Dead 2 from Sam Raimi has an 88%. Muppets wins here. But then when you look at lowest score, almost every one of the Muppet films is fresh, but one of them is not, that being Muppets Wizard of Oz, which only has a 30%. Whereas with Evil Dead, every single movie is fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. The lowest score is 63% for the 2013 film. So Evil Dead wins here. And then when you look at average score, Evil Dead is going to win again because it has an average of 77, while Muppets has an average of 75. Then we look at gap between lowest and highest score. Well, once again, Evil Dead's going to win here because you only have a gap of 25, whereas with Muppets, it's a gap of 65. Evil Dead has won 3 of the rounds so far, so it will be winning no matter what. When we look at my personal opinion, the big difference between these two franchises, honestly, is that I watched all the Evil Dead movies for the first time just within like the past month. So it's not a franchise I have nostalgia for. It's not one that I grew up on. I've only seen the movies one time. Whereas when it comes to Muppets, while it is true that I watched most of these movies for the first time not too long ago, just like within the past year, I did used to own the movie The Muppet Movie, the first one of these, on VHS tape back when me and my parents lived in New York, and thus I've seen The Muppet Movie quite a good amount of times. In fact, I remember listening to that song right at the beginning, the Rainbow Connection song, in order to sing along to it. I remember me and my dad watching the Muppet Movie together. Plus, I also have seen the Muppet Christmas Carol more than once, and I think that's a fantastic version of the Christmas Carol story. I think Michael Caine just gives a great performance there, and he's able to act alongside Muppets without ever winking at the camera, without coming off like he's saying this is stupid or anything like that. No. He's giving a serious performance. He's acting right alongside Muppets and just treating them like characters, not like silly little puppets or anything like that. Also, I think the tone works well here because on the one hand, you have the lighthearted moments with Gonzo and Rizzo. It's pretty funny that Gonzo is acting like he's Charles Dickens and is in fact narrating throughout the movie. But I like that when we go to the future, because this is supposed to be the more serious moment in the Christmas Carol story, the two of them disappear, so they're not undermining the drama of this part of the story. I think the visuals here are really good. It's impressive, I would say, how much Kermit, Piggy, all the other Muppets, the end, really express emotion when they're grieving for Tiny Tim during that part of the story where, of course, Scrooge sees the future, that if you don't change your ways, if you don't start to help out this family more, they're going to lose this child, Tiny Tim, and it would be on you, which, of course, is a big turning point for Scrooge's character. And also, the story here is, well, a classic one that is just emotionally powerful. It works really well. I think the story of the Muppet Movie works really well, too. When it comes to all the other Muppet movies, I enjoy a lot of them. I think it's interesting how the Very Merry Muppet Christmas feels like the Muppet version of It's a Wonderful Life. It deals with the same idea about Kermit thinking that everyone else would be better off without him and thus wishing that he wasn't born anymore, but then an angel shows him what would be if he wasn't around, just like in It's a Wonderful Life, and thus when Kermit comes back, he has a greater appreciation for his life. I think in Muppets from Space, it's interesting we learn that Gonzo is actually an alien. It's something that you are wondering about when you watch the other movies. Like, what exactly is Gonzo? Because everything else is like an animal from our world. You look at you look at Fozzie and you go, yeah, he's a bear. Kermit, yeah, he's a frog. Miss Piggy, she's a pig. But with Gonzo, he doesn't look like a real world animal, so there is a question there that we're curious about. Now, I think The Muppet Wizard of Oz is certainly one of the weaker Muppet movies. It's entertaining, yes, but also just weird. So I don't think it works as well. But I still had a good time with this one. And when it comes to the Evil Dead franchise, I mean, I think that none of these movies are bad, really. Some of them are stronger than others. I definitely prefer the first three Evil Dead movies from Sam Raimi. Those are interesting movies, especially when you look at Evil Dead 2. It's a horror comedy where it's both scary and funny at the same time. Because of the 80s special effects, it isn't as intense. It doesn't feel that way compared to modern horror films. Doesn't look quite as real. And also, I like how you have this character Ash that uses a chainsaw as a weapon. He has a chainsaw hand. That's entertaining. I think it's funny how Evil Dead Free Army of Darkness just gets a lot more wacky with Ash being in the past. I mean, I found the 2013 film Evil Dead Rise are both well done. With Evil Dead Rise, I like this idea that the person who's taken over is actually a mother. That, of course, is just even more horrifying. But I think that the setup for how the creepy stuff starts happening isn't the best. And the characters are not the best here, so it's certainly not my favorite out of these movies. But overall, I'm going to have to choose Muppets because it is the more nostalgic franchise for me that I have a greater emotional connection to. But Evil Dead will be winning, however. I'll wrap things up for this video.